The map was old, too old to be real. The edges frayed and curling, the ink faded like the breath of a forgotten age. But it held a secret, one so dangerous, one so explosive, that it could either save humanity or drive it to extinction. The coordinates were clear, etched into the surface like an unbreakable code. Here be monsters. Captain Jax Carver ran his hand over the cracked map as the light from the war room flickered overhead. The hum of distant machinery filled the silence. But his mind was 1,000 miles away, on the world this map promised to uncover. A world once thought to be lost. A world hiding something that could change the course of their doomed war. The war with the Tarn, an alien species that had wiped out half of humanity's colonies across the galaxy. And now, as desperation clung to their every move, it was Earth's turn. "Sir, we've pinpointed the location," Lieutenant Mira Dawson said, her voice steady but laced with an unease Jax couldn't ignore. "It's Earth. The coordinates match." Jax's heart skipped a beat. "Earth?" he asked, his voice taut with disbelief. "That can't be right." "I thought the same," she replied, her eyes glued to the data screen, the blue light casting shadows across her face. "But the map doesn't lie. It's Earth, but not as we know it. Not anymore." Jax took a deep breath, running his fingers through his short-cropped hair. Earth. The heart of humanity. The birthplace of every war, every betrayal, every triumph. It had been abandoned, destroyed by decades of relentless bombing runs from the Tarn. The surface was scorched, the cities shattered, the seas choked with pollution. The very air was toxic, an uninhabitable wasteland. Humanity had long since abandoned it, taking refuge in floating cities, space stations, and colonies spread across the galaxy. But Earth still had its ghosts. What could possibly be left down there? Jax muttered under his breath, barely audible. "We need to find out," Mira said, turning to face him, her expression grim. "Our intel suggests that whatever's left there is capable of turning the tide. We could win this war if we find it." Jax studied the map one more time. Earth. The monsters weren't just in the words, they were in the potential for Earth's hidden weapon, buried beneath layers of destruction. He felt the weight of that secret pressing on his chest. If they were real, if Earth still had something of worth to offer, the Tarn would never stop hunting us. He turned to the war room's command console. "Prepare the shuttle. We leave in 30. The descent to Earth was uneventful, the silent void of space slowly filling with the deafening sound of the shuttle's thrusters. Jax couldn't help but feel the familiar weight of unease settle in his stomach. Every mission felt like this, calm before the storm, but this one was different. This time, the storm might very well be their own undoing. He sat in the cockpit, Mira beside him, staring out into the blackness. They both knew that the Tarn could be waiting, watching, anticipating the moment humanity would show weakness. "Tell me something, Mira," Jax said, breaking the silence. "What if it's a trap? What if this weapon is just a myth, like the Tarn wanted us to believe? How are we so sure we're not walking into a grave?" Mira's lips tightened. "Because we can't afford to not take the risk," she replied. "Every day we wait, they get stronger. We have to find something to turn the tide, or we die. Simple as that." Jax nodded. She was right. Every step had led to this point. The shuttle began to shake, a violent tremor running through the hull. The thrusters screamed in protest as Earth's gravity gripped them like a hungry beast. "Brace for impact," Mira shouted over the noise, and Jax slammed his hand on the console, engaging the landing protocols. The shuttle lurched, the world outside twisting in an explosion of flames as they tore through the atmosphere. Jax could feel the weight of their fall pushing against his chest, his pulse racing as the ship rattled violently. Earth, this desolate, forsaken world, was waiting to claim them. The ground hit with a thunderous thud, sending shockwaves through the hull. For a moment, everything went dark. When Jax's vision cleared, he could make out the outline of the war-torn landscape through the shuttle's cracked windows. It was worse than he imagined. The surface was scorched, barren, with craters that looked like gaping wounds on the planet's surface. And still, something stirred in the distance, an ancient structure rising from the wreckage, half buried under decades of ash and dust. "We're here," Jax muttered, eyes narrowed. "Now we see what's left." The shuttle doors hissed open, revealing the toxic wasteland outside. The air was thick with the scent of sulfur and decay. The land stretched out before them, vast and unwelcoming, but the ruins on the horizon, those ruins held the key. "Let's move, team," Jax said, his voice cold and commanding. "We're not here for sightseeing." They stepped out into the ruinous world, the dirt underfoot crunching like dry leaves. The sky above was a dim, sickly hue, as if the sun itself had given up. Jax looked up, his breast shallow. The map had been right, this was Earth, and it was waiting for them. As they advanced toward the ruins, the eerie silence of the land seemed to press in on them. Mira walked a little ahead, scanning the horizon with her tactical gear. There was nothing, no signs of life, no remnants of civilization, just the crumbling bones of a world long since forsaken. But the deeper they moved into the heart of the ruins, the more it felt as though they were being watched. The hair on the back of Jax's neck stood on end. "I don't like this," he muttered, gripping his rifle tighter. "Something's not right." And then, a crackling sound broke the silence. From the shadows, something moved fast. Too fast. Jax spun, rifle raised, but the figure had already disappeared into the crumbled remains of a building. He didn't wait for orders. He ran. "Stay sharp," he shouted over his shoulder. They weren't alone anymore. And as the shadows closed in around them, Jax realized that the monsters on this map were not just legends, they were real. The air was thick with dust, the oppressive weight of the desolate land pressing in from all sides. Jax Carver's breath came in ragged gasps as he sprinted through the ruins, rifle raised, scanning the shadows. The ground beneath his boots was cracked and brittle, as if the very bones of Earth had been shattered under the weight of time. Mira Dawson wasn't far behind, her own weapon trained on the crumbling remains of what might have once been a towering skyscraper. The ruins loomed over them, casting long, jagged shadows that seemed to shift and writhe in the harsh, polluted light. "You see anything?" Jax called out, his voice tight with tension. He could hear Myra's boots thudding softly against the ground behind him. "Nothing yet," she answered, but her tone was strained. "But we're not alone. That much is clear." Jax's eyes narrowed. There had been something, or someone, moving in the shadows. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't just a trick of the light. Something was watching them, waiting for them to make their move. And it wasn't the Tarn. He would have felt their presence by now. This was something different. The sudden sound of a sharp crack echoed through the air. Jax instinctively ducked, the instinct of years of combat kicking in. The sound wasn't a shot. It was something heavier, like the snapping of a twig, but this was no forest. It came from the direction of the ruins. "Stay low," Jax ordered, crouching down behind a broken pillar. Mira did the same, her eyes darting to the ruins ahead. "I'm not sure what we're dealing with here," Mira whispered, her hand gripping her rifle tighter. "I didn't think anything survived on Earth. Certainly not anything intelligent. We don't know what's here yet," Jax said, his voice steady but tinged with unease. "But I don't intend to find out the hard way. We stick to the plan, locate the weapon, get out." "I hear you," Mira replied. Her face was etched with determination, but the doubt in her eyes was unmistakable. They moved cautiously through the ruins, weaving between the skeletal remains of what had once been a thriving city. The tall buildings, now nothing more than twisted metal and shattered glass, stood as silent witnesses to the death of a civilization. Jax's mind wandered for a brief moment, wondering if humanity had ever truly understood what they were doing to their planet. But there was no time for that now. The present, the fight, was all that mattered. They reached what appeared to be a central hub, a massive structure that once might have served as a command center or government building. The map had pointed them here. If anything was left of Earth's forgotten secrets, it would be buried within. "Ready?" Jax asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mira nodded, her face grim. "Let's do it." They entered the building, their footsteps muffled by the rubble beneath them. Inside, the space was dark, the air stagnant. The only sound was the soft hum of the tech still running, fragments of old systems, long abandoned but somehow still functioning. Jax motioned for Mira to cover the rear as he moved deeper into the building, his eyes scanning every corner. The walls were covered in faded holographic displays, once used for communication, now nothing more than eerie remnants of a dead world. Jax's eyes caught a flicker of movement, and he froze. A figure, shrouded in shadow, darted from one of the corridors. Myra's voice cut through the stillness. "Did you see that?" "I saw it." Jax's hand went to his sidearm, his eyes narrowing. "Stay alert." The shadows moved again, and then a low growl echoed through the corridor, a sound so alien, so guttural, it made Jax's stomach tighten with unease. He motioned for Mira to follow him as he advanced, carefully stepping over debris, his every movement calculated. The growl came again, louder this time, followed by a scraping sound, like something dragging across the floor. "Jax," Mira said, her voice trembling slightly. "What the hell is that?" "I don't know," he replied, his voice steady but the tension in his shoulders betraying him. "But we're about to find out." They turned the corner, and what they saw nearly stopped them in their tracks. A creature, no, not just a creature, was crouched in the center of the room. It was humanoid but distorted, its body long and twisted in unnatural ways. Its eyes glowed a sickly yellow, and its skin was slick, almost reflective. The thing was crouched low to the ground, its form almost blending into the shadows. It didn't make a sound, but Jax could feel its gaze boring into him. Then it spoke, its voice rasping like broken glass scraping against steel. "You shouldn't have come." The words sent a chill down Jax's spine. What are you?" he demanded, stepping forward, rifle at the ready. The creature tilted its head, almost as if it was amused. "The last of the forgotten ones. The ones who survived the Tarn. The ones who were left behind." Myra's hand flew to her comm, but Jax stopped her with a sharp gesture. "No transmissions yet," he warned. "We don't know if we can trust this thing." The creature's lips curled into a smile, revealing sharp, jagged teeth. "Trust? You should be worried about survival, not trust." It stood slowly, its limbs bending in ways that made Jax's skin crawl. "The Tarn are not your real enemy. They are just the beginning. The real monsters have been waiting, watching." "What do you want?" Jax demanded, his finger tightening on the trigger. The creature stepped closer, its movements impossibly fluid. "You've come for the weapon," it said, voice dripping with malice. "But you should have stayed away. The Earth you know is already dead." Jax's heart raced. "Where is it? Where's the weapon?" The creature's smile widened, showing more of its unnerving teeth. "Oh, it's here. But you'll never reach it. Not with what's coming." Just as Jax raised his rifle, a deep, rumbling roar echoed from the depths of the building. The walls trembled, and dust cascaded from the ceiling. "Now you die," the creature hissed, disappearing into the shadows, leaving Jax and Mira alone, trapped in the heart of a nightmare they couldn't yet comprehend. And then the real monsters began to emerge. The building shook violently, sending a cascade of dust and debris raining down on Jax and Mira. The roar that had echoed through the halls now reverberated like thunder, growing louder with each passing second. The walls seemed to close in, and the very air itself felt charged with impending doom. Jax's mind raced. The creature's words, "The Tarn are not your real enemy. They are just the beginning," repeated over and over in his head. What the hell is it talking about? "Stay close," Jax ordered, his voice sharp as he motioned for Mira to follow. His rifle was still raised, but the weight of the situation settled heavily on him. This wasn't just a mission to recover a weapon. It was something far more dangerous. The weapon, whatever it was, might not even matter anymore. They had walked into a trap set by something far worse than the Tarn. "Do you hear that?" Mira whispered, her voice trembling as she glanced around the darkened corridor. Jax didn't need to hear it. He could feel the ground beneath him vibrating, the low growl of something massive approaching. And then, the unmistakable sound of scraping, dragging footsteps filled the air, growing closer. He pushed Mira behind him, his gaze fixed on the far end of the hall. The shadows there shifted, stretching unnaturally long. The creature, the Forgotten One, had vanished into those very shadows, but now, something else was stirring. A massive, hulking form emerged from the darkness, its silhouette massive, towering above the ruins. Its body was a grotesque blend of machinery and flesh, a nightmarish hybrid that lumbered toward them with unnatural speed. Its eyes glowed a bright crimson, reflecting the dim, toxic light that filtered through the ruined building. Jax's grip on his rifle tightened. "Get ready," he warned, his voice low. "This is it." Without a word, Mira raised her own weapon, her knuckles white from the pressure. They didn't need to speak. They were both well-trained, well accustomed to this kind of nightmare. The creature advanced with mechanical precision, its movements jerky yet purposeful. It seemed to be powered by some sort of corrupted technology, its body held together by shifting plates of metal and bone. Every step it took sent tremors through the ground, as if the earth itself was reacting to its presence. "Stay focused," Jax muttered under his breath, but the words felt empty in the face of the monstrosity before them. The creature stopped just short of them, towering over them both. It looked down at them with its glowing eyes, studying them as though they were nothing more than insects beneath its foot. And then it spoke. The voice that came from it wasn't like anything Jax had ever heard. It was mechanical, but there was an unmistakable cruelty in it, like a distorted echo of something far more human. "You're too late," it rasped, its voice a hollow, metallic growl. "The Tarn are nothing. You are nothing. The true power lies here, buried beneath the ruins." Jax's heart raced. The creature's words didn't make sense, but something inside him told him this was more than just a battle. "What do you mean?" he demanded. "What's beneath the ruins? What is this weapon you keep talking about?" The creature tilted its head, as if amused. "You think you're fighting for a weapon?" it hissed. "No. You're fighting for your extinction." Suddenly, the creature lunged forward, faster than Jax could react. Its massive clawed arm swiped through the air, slamming into Jax's side with the force of a freight train. He was thrown back, crashing into a pile of rubble. Pain exploded in his ribs, but he didn't have time to focus on it. The creature was coming for him. Myra's shout echoed through the ruins as she opened fire. The blasts rang out, striking the creature in its chest, but the impact barely slowed it down. The creature didn't flinch, didn't even seem to notice the damage. Instead, it reached down, its hand grabbing Mira by the waist and lifting her off the ground with ease. She struggled, but the creature's grip was like iron. Jax pushed himself to his feet, heart pounding in his chest. His rifle was useless now. He needed something bigger, something that could stop this monstrosity. Think, Jax's mind screamed. He needed a plan. A way out. There had to be something. Then, his eyes locked on the crumbling structure behind the creature. A massive, shattered column of steel and concrete was precariously hanging above the creature's head. A wild idea sparked in his mind. He had only one shot at this. "Hold on, Mira!" Jax shouted, already moving. The creature roared in anger as it tightened its grip on Mira, but she managed to break free, slamming the butt of her rifle into its face. The creature staggered, momentarily dazed, and Jax seized the opportunity. He sprinted toward the column, ignoring the burning pain in his side. He reached the base of the structure and, with all his strength, shoved at the rubble, dislodging the column. It wobbled for a moment before plummeting downward, crashing directly onto the creature's head with a deafening, bone-shattering impact. The creature howled in pain as the column smashed into its skull, knocking it to the ground with an earth-shaking thud. Jax didn't hesitate. He was on the creature in an instant, his pulse racing, his mind clouded with adrenaline. He grabbed Myra's arm, pulling her away from the wreckage. "We need to move! Now!" Jax urged, pulling her toward the exit. But as they made their way toward the door, the building shook again. The walls groaned, and the ceiling began to cave in, dust filling the air. The structure was collapsing, and they didn't have much time. "Mira, come on!" Jax shouted. They made it to the door, only for it to slam shut just as they reached it. Panic surged in Jax's chest, but he didn't stop. He threw his shoulder into the door, smashing it open with all his might. As the dust settled and they stumbled out into the open, they were met with a sight that froze Jax's blood. The ground beneath them cracked, splitting open like a wound in the earth itself. From the depths of the chasm, something stirred, an ancient, mechanical monstrosity rising from the depths of the ruins. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a herald and awakening. "Get back!" Jax screamed, pulling Mira away. The true fight had just begun. As they ran, Jax couldn't shake the feeling that their victory had only just been delayed. The real war was about to unfold. And this time, it wouldn't be against the Tarn. This time, humanity's survival would depend on something far worse.